بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. We begin by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and remembering His name, and we ask Him to send His peace and blessings upon the last and final messenger Muhammad ibn Abdullah alayhi salatu wassalam. As you know, this series is centered around Him, but specifically His attributes, and the goal is to remind ourselves how we should be. And before I get into today's characteristic, it's important to point out the following: that when we speak about His characteristics, it isn't simply praiseworthy attributes. There is a depth to it that needs to be recognized, and that is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose the Prophet ﷺ and sent him as a messenger. Part of that, actually quite a bit of that, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose someone who represents Him, who represents who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. And therefore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, since He chose the Prophet ﷺ to serve the role as a messenger, a representative of Him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose someone who best fits Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's perfection, if you will, right? In other words, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has certain purposes for us, certain goals. He created us for a reason, and that is seen through the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the beautiful names and attributes of His, and therefore He chose someone who is representative of that. And therefore Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful. He loves who? Those who are merciful. Irhamu man fil ard yarhamukum man fis sama. Have mercy on those on earth, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one in the skies or the heavens, above the heavens, will have mercy on you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-alim, yuhibbul ulama. He is knowledgeable, He loves scholars. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala halim, right? Allah is forbearing, He loves those who are forbearing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kareem, yuhibbul kurama. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is gracious, generous, He loves those who are gracious and generous. So when we talk about the characteristics of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, always remember this, that this is representing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And therefore, when we explore and remind ourselves of these characteristics, also remember that the one who sent this messenger, he has such attributes, but on a perfect level, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we look at the Prophet ﷺ, through his demeanor, through his actions, his engagement, his characteristics, it helps us better know who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is and what He wants for us. And today's characteristic is none other than mercy. You know, the embodiment of Allah subhanahu, or the purpose behind Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation is to have mercy upon us. And as we know, the beautiful verse, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. We did not send you except as a source of mercy for all of humanity, for all of creation. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَوْ شَاءَ رَبُّكَ لَجَعَلَ النَّاسَ أُمَّةً وَاحِدَةً وَلَا يَزَالُونَ مُخْتَلِفِينَ إِلَّا مَنْ رَحِمَ رَبُّكَ وَلِذَلِكَ خَلَقَكُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if He wanted to, He would have made mankind under one nation, meaning under one theology, all of you as believers. However, humans will always differ with one another, except who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mercy on, and for that reason He created us. Meaning, to have mercy on us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us. So in order to have Allah create us, to have mercy on us, part of that is that He sent a prophet who is the epitome of mercy in terms of mankind. Always remember this link. So when we study His attributes, alayhi salatu wassalam, it is just a small depiction of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to offer. And the topic of mercy is quite massive. It really is. And therefore, I'm going to split it over 2 weeks. This week, I'm going to talk about a type of mercy that does not get much attention in our times, right? We tend to focus on the social engagement and the social mercy that the Prophet ﷺ had. How he was merciful to other people, whoever it was, how that manifested itself. But one type of mercy, which is the primary type of mercy, meaning the primary reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the Prophet ﷺ was for this type of mercy. And that is theological mercy. We tend to forget this. When you look at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the role of being guidance for mankind. وَإِنَّكَ لَتَهْدِي إِلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. And indeed, you guide to the straight path. The Prophet ﷺ taught us that path. So that is the primary function of a messenger, as we spoke about in the first session. That is his main role. And that type of guidance is a theological one, first and foremost. Yes, there are other aspects. There's social aspects, and there's communal and family issues that the Prophet ﷺ came and taught us, as well as political as well. But the primary goal, the primary role of a prophet, alayhi salatu wassalam, is to guide people. And continue the verse. وَإِنَّكَ لَتَهْدِي إِلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. The second verse. صِرَاطِ اللَّهِ الَّذِي لَهُ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ أَلَا إِلَى اللَّهِ تَصِيرُ الْأُمُورِ. The path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The one who owns the heavens and the earth, and indeed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala returns all affairs. This is the role of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. So this begs the question, right? What are the details in this regard? The path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Well, many people claim to be on the path of Allah or the path of God, to the extent where now you have certain branches of religions that are what's called Unitarian, Universalist, meaning, there's a God, worship him the way you see best fit, and that's okay. Well, we have quite a bit of problem with that. And we believe there's only one path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because the relationship between man or woman and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is founded on submission. We relate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by worshiping him, and worship is submission, right? Now, if we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the way we see fit, the way we want to, is that submission? That's not submission. That's not even worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he warns us of that. As أَفَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ. Have you seen the one who has taken their desires, their whims, right, as a God, as their God? So we are quite keen on making sure that we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the way he told us to worship him. Not just because that's true worship, but also because we believe that is the Sirat al-Mustaqim, the straight path, meaning the quickest way to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the only way to Allah is this path. Worshipping him in any other way, right, what we call sometimes innovation, bid'ah, or perhaps, in heretical ways, we believe that does not bring a person closer to Allah, rather it taints their relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Prophet ﷺ came first and foremost to guide us to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And there are certain principles or concepts which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or the Prophet ﷺ and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala focused on, right? And number one is what? Tawheed, monotheism. The primary mercy which the Prophet ﷺ came with and presented to us is this concept of monotheism, tawheed, that we worship only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the embodiment, that is the pinnacle, the zenith, whatever word you want to use, that represents the highest form of something. That is the highest form of mercy is tawheed. That's how it is. And the Quran points out aspects of that. First of all, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبِ. Indeed, with the remembrance of Allah, do hearts find tranquility. أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبِ. Tranquility. SubhanAllah, there was one of my professors in Jordan. He studied in America. He studied economics in America, in Harvard, I think. He said that one time he was in a gathering with other professors and whatnot, and they said someone offered him a drink. A lady offered him a drink of alcohol. He said, "No, thank you. I don't need it." And she took him by the hand, took him into a place where there's not as much commotion and noise. She said, "Please sit down." "What do you mean you don't need it?" "I can't sleep without being buzzed. I can't sleep without having a drink." And they say that drinking pushes away one's stress and whatnot. Such a person, when they miss Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when they don't have a connection to him, their hearts fall into an emotional distress. And this is something we as Muslims take for granted. Even if the Muslim is not practicing very much, they still have the belief that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there, and anything they need, they can reach out to him. That makes a big difference, even if it's not enforced or practiced very much by the individual. And this is very hard to really feel to really understand unless someone has gone through that. And this is why the companions said, the companions who were born and raised on disbelief and then became Muslim appreciate Iman, understand Iman better than those who were born as Muslims, because they felt what it means. They know what it means to be a non-Muslim. They know what it means to for one's heart to be disattached, disconnected from Allah and believing in falsities. They know the stress that brings. Subhanallah. So with the remembrance of Allah, which is a form of tawheed, when we remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are worshipping Him and we are establishing, making a spiritual connection there with Him subhanahu wa ta'ala, praising Him and glorifying Him and remembering Him. That brings a type of tranquility to the heart where the scholars would say the following: لو علم الملوك وأبناء الملوك ما نحن فيه لاجتالونا what is it? جالدونا عليه بالسيوف. Thank you. Right? They would say that if the kings and the sons of kings know what we feel, meaning the happiness and the peace and tranquility that we feel, they would fight us with their swords to take it. That's such a massive commodity that we as Muslims really take for granted. With tawheed, it helps us deal with our emotions. And this is the whole concept of tuma'nina. Ibn Qayyim gives a beautiful explanation of what this verse means. Right? أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبُ. Indeed, with the remembrance of Allah, do hearts find rest. Now, Ibn Qayyim says remembrance of Allah isn't simply saying Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, La ilaha illallah. That's only a part of it. Rather, any engagement with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a type of dhikr. So when we pray, we are doing dhikr. When we fast, we are doing dhikr. Right? When we make wudu, this is a type of dhikr. When we follow the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, this is a type of dhikr. And therefore, what this verse is telling us is that our hearts have emotions. Right? Our heart is a vessel of emotions. And our emotions will move our heart around, thus affecting our behavior. And sometimes when the emotion becomes very strong, very powerful, it has a very profound effect on our behavior. Sometimes leading us to make wrong choices, to make pretty harmful choices as well. So for example, when someone is very upset, very angry, sometimes anger can get to the extent where it literally shuts the person's mind off. And when they reach that level, they can do some serious damage to themselves and to those around them. Someone's very upset, they drive in their car and they start speeding around. Well, that can kill someone. Someone is very upset with their child, their mind, they lose their mind, they could really harm that child and break the family. So when Allah tells us, بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبُ, in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest, when the person reaches such a state of anger, what does the Prophet ﷺ teach us? He says, if you're angry and you're standing up, what do? You sit down. And if you're sitting down, what do? You lay down. Enacting this in such a state is a type of dhikr. And that calms the heart down. Other ways we can deal with that is simply dhikr, right? Saying astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, making wudu. Although the hadith, as far as I'm concerned, is not authentic, it's a weaker hadith. However, you can see how that makes sense. Because when a person's upset, it is an opening for the shaitan. The shaitan comes and starts utilizing that. Starts putting things in your mind, making you even more upset. So making wudu kind of removes the heat of the shaitan from the person. It cools them down. Also gives them a moment to kind of just focus on something else and take a break. And if they add 2 rak'ahs prayer to that, even better and better. When it comes to, for example, happiness, excitement, joy, sometimes people, when they're very happy, it causes them to act in inappropriate manners. In the Arab world, a lot of times you find on the day of a lady's wedding, right? She's a hijabi lady. On the day of her wedding, she takes off her hijab in front of everyone. The excitement, right? So sometimes even something like happiness, which we see as a positive emotion, can cause a person to make an incorrect choice or make a wrong decision. So when we are happy, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet teach us to do what? Be grateful, right? As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the story of Qarun, لا تفرح إن الله لا يحب الفرحين. Don't be happy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't love this type of happiness. When it's happiness about boasting. Look at who I am, so happy, excited. Right? And to remember who gave you that happiness in the first place? It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, utilize it in such a manner. It takes a person's emotion and brings it back down to a center, to where it doesn't profoundly affect their behavior in an incorrect manner. And you can utilize this for all types of emotions. Any emotion, you find that the Sharia comes and tells us how to process that, how to understand it, and how to convert it into a spiritual connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this brings rest to the heart. Imagine waking up every day in a state where you're optimistic, in a state where you're not concerned about the certain harms that could come in this day. You're not worried about, what's to come. You wake up with dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to remind yourself that no matter what challenges are posed, right? No matter what challenges meet me today, I have a God who's able to get me through it. That whatever challenge is brought to me, I know that the one who brought it to me, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, only brought it to me so that I can overcome it. The one who brought it to me will also help me get over it and get through it, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about the tranquility. الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَلَمْ يَلْبِسُوا إِيمَانَهُم بِظُلْمٍ أُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمُ الْأَمْنُ وَهُمْ مُهْتَدُونَ. Those who believe and don't mix their belief with dhulm, with injustice, here referring to shirk, as the Prophet ﷺ explains. Now this comes at the end of a conversation between Ibrahim alayhi and his people in Tawheed. He is arguing with them in Tawheed. His people are worshipping the stars and the planets, right? And Ibrahim is calling them to monotheism, saying nothing benefits you except Allah. Nothing can harm you except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those that you worship besides Him cannot do anything, right? Therefore, worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In Him do you find peace. In Him do you find what you need. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala acknowledges what Ibrahim alayhi salam says and accepts it as something valid and says, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَلَمْ يَلْبِسُوا إِيمَانَهُم بِظُلْمٍ أُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمُ الْأَمْنُ وَهُمْ مُهْتَدُونَ. Those who believe and don't mix their belief with shirk, with associating partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for them is amn, safety. وَهُمْ مُهْتَدُونَ, and for them is guidance, and they are guided. How much money do we spend on insurance? Every month, how much money do we spend on insurance? Hundreds of dollars. And what is insurance? Pretty much manipulating our fear of a potential harm, right? And then making money off that. We are paying companies so that we feel safe and secure, right? We never want to get into a car accident. We never want our house to burn down. But the reality is, just in case, right? That brings a type of safety and type of security to the heart that is worth paying for. Or else we wouldn't be paying these hundreds of dollars a month, really. Think about it that way. Yet here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us what? Tawheed, monotheism, is bringing you that safety and security. That no matter what your situation is, not only is there a purpose behind it, meaning there's a reason, it's not void of purpose. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed this to happen for a wisdom, whether we acknowledge it or not. And the best example of that is in Surah Al-Kahf. Right? We all read this every week and we know the stories between Musa and Khadr alayhi wassalatu wassalam. Right? Safety and security. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through Tawheed, is providing us that whatever the challenge comes, we know that we have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who can take care of us. فَإِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا إِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا. This is a very important verse that we all have memorized. Why? Because it's comforting. We all go through hardships. So the Prophet ﷺ came and he is teaching us this. And one of the mercies of what he's teaching us is that we feel the safety and security Tawheed has to offer. So, and continuing on one more verse, أَلَا إِنَّ أَوْلِيَاءَ اللَّهِ لَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. Indeed, the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the awliya of Allah, there is no fear upon them, nor do they have to be sad or grief. Sorrow, grief, and fear. These are powerful emotions that really drain a person's energy, bring so much stress. When a person, in the Arab tradition, they say that there are two things that keep a person awake: hunger and fear. When someone's afraid, it's hard for them to sleep. Their entire life turns into, subhanAllah, a hardship when there's that fear. And fear isn't something just an adult feels. Sometimes, kids who are going to school, I got a bad grade. How am I going to take it to my parents now? That's a type of fear that creates a lot of distress. It really is. No one likes that. No one likes to feel sad and to cry. No one likes to feel that. Yet here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying His friends. Who are His friends? Allahu waliyyu ladina amanu. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the friend of those who believe. He is the wali of those who believe. He's the protector of them. He takes care of them. Imagine the King of Kings is taking care of you. That brings a lot of peace and tranquility to the heart. So the first mercy we must acknowledge when it comes to what the Prophet ﷺ embodied in terms of mercy is that he brought us tawheed, which brings tranquility to the heart. Also, tawheed causes our hearts to focus on one main objective. Look at what Yusuf ﷺ tells his two inmates. He says, Ya صاحبي السجن أأرباب متفرقون خير أم الله الواحد القهار. Such a powerful, profound verse. He says, "Oh, my two inmate, friends, what's better, having multiple gods, right? Each one has a particular purpose or a particular role in your life. One is for love, one is for wealth, one is for health, one is for rain, one is for this, and one is for that. And every time you need something, not only do you have to remember which God does what, right? But you also have to go to that God. And sometimes you need to sacrifice, put something in front of that God. We even see this today, unfortunately. I was watching a documentary about, where was it? Nepal or one of those, in that area, where Buddhist or some religion, no, probably not Buddhist, some paganistic religion, in order to go to their God, they have to walk 5 kilometers up a mountain. 5 kilometers. To make a supplication. And not just that, you have to sacrifice something. Right? Imagine that. Imagine every time you want to make dua, you have to walk up a mountain that's 5 kilometers tall. Okay. Right? And that's not it, What if you go up and you find, oh my God, this is not the one I'm looking for, I got to go to. Right? That's even worse. So look at how, that breaks the heart apart. Also, part of the relationship between an individual and a deity is that, there's a type of engagement here, a type of dedication, a sincerity. Now, if you have all these different gods, these deities, how are you going to be sincere to all of them? Right? What if each one wants something different from you? Now you're going left and right. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us an example in Surah An-Nahl. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ضَرَبَ اللَّهُ مَثَلًا عَبْدًا مَمْلُوكًا لَا يَقْدِرُ عَلَى شَيْءٍ وَمَنْ رَزَقْنَاهُ not that one. وَضَرَبَ اللَّهُ مَثَلًا رَجُلَيْنِ أَحَدُهُمَا أَبْكَمُ لَا يَقْدِرُ عَلَى شَيْءٍ. Not even that one. Which one is it? I forgot the beginning of the verse, so I just don't take too much time. The verse says the following, right? No, I remember it. رَجُلٌ فِيهِ شُرَكَاءُ مُتَشَاكِسُونَ وَرَجُلًا سَلَمًا لِرَجُلٍ هَلْ يَسْتَوِيَانِ مَثَلًا. Right? Allah subhanahu gives us the parable. What is better? For a slave, back when slavery was around, a slave to have multiple masters. One is telling him, okay, by 5 o'clock be by me. The other one's saying, by 5 o'clock be by me. What are you going to do now? If you go to this one, the other one's going to get mad at you. If you go to the other one, this one's going to get mad at you. It's a lose-lose situation. Versus someone who's dedicated to one person, is only taking commands from one person. So Allah subhanahu gives us this parable. And here Yusuf alayhi salam gives us this question. What's better? Having multiple gods. Amillahu al-wahidul qahar. Or Allah, the one and the all-powerful, the overpowering. Meaning the one capable of doing everything and the one which everything returns to. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we embody tawheed, when we live it, when we experience it, it keeps our heart together. We are focused on one thing, one objective. And that keeps our minds clear, and it keeps us effective and efficient. Among other commodities, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not in a physical form where we have to go and engage it, where we have to climb up a mountain. Rather, anytime you need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He hears. وَقَالَ رَبُّكُمْ أُدْعُونِي أَسْتَجِبْ لَكُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, It says, call on me, ud'uni, supplicate me, invoke me, and I will answer you. Anytime, anywhere, whatever the situation. From the heart, direct connection, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's the King of Kings. What a privilege. What a mercy that we have direct, independent access to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Quicker access to Him than the most beloved person to us. Because we might call our spouse or our child. Well, we have to call them on the phone. If the phone's not next to you, you have to go and find it. Make sure it's charged, right? You have to pay for that too. You have to pay for your phone. And then you call, sometimes they don't answer. Or sometimes the call doesn't go through. Or sometimes the call gets cut off. Compare that to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where you can whisper whatever you want to whisper, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hears it loud and clear. And even if you're not the most eloquent person, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what you want. And even if you don't know what you want, but you're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help, Allah knows what you want and He knows how to help you with that. What's better? Having multiple deities, which you are dedicated to each and every one of them, right? Versus Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who's asking nothing of your wealth. لا نسألك رزقا. We don't ask you for wealth. وهو يطعم ولا يطعم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who feeds, He's not fed. And this is quite an interesting verse. I never understood it until someone who was a pagan told me that, when they were a pagan, they would have to sacrifice and give food to the idol. And it was always strange to that person, saying that, well, I'm the one who needs food, not this idol. Why am I giving it food? SubhanAllah. So look at this mercy which the Prophet ﷺ gave us. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. He sent him as mercy. This is mercy. This is true mercy. Also, among the blessings and the mercy of Tawheed is that with Tawheed comes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy. With Tawheed comes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy. What does that mean? Look at what the Prophet ﷺ teaches us. لَعْنُ الْمُسْلِمِ كَقَتْلِهِ. Whoever curses a Muslim, not with a swear word, but with may God curse you. Whoever says that to a Muslim is as if they killed that person. It's as if they killed that Muslim. What does this mean? It means that we as Muslims, what do we thrive off of? What gives us life? What gives us energy? What gives us food? What gives us hope? What gives us peace and rest? Who teaches us? Who gives us life? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy. All of that is His mercy. When you look at the world around you, all of it is a manifestation of His mercy. When you are driving in the beautiful scenic roads of Southern California, when you look at the mountains, remember the one who created that, created it so you enjoy it. You enjoy looking at that. Allah created that for you. That is mercy. So by telling someone, may God curse you, which in the Arabic language means may you be distant from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy. May it be distant from you. It's as if you killed that person. Because we thrive off Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy. If we lose it, we have lost everything. We have lost everything. So with Tawheed, we get the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And a verse in that, فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَاعْتَصَمُوا بِهِ فَسَيُدْخِلُهُمْ رَبُّهُمْ فِي رَحْمَةٍ مِّنْهُ فَسَيُدْخِلُهُمْ فِي رَحْمَةٍ مِّنْهُ وَفَضْلٍ وَيَهْدِيهِمْ إِلَيْهِ صِرَاطًا مُسْتَقِيمًا. For as those who believe in Allah and do i'tisam to Him, meaning they grab hold to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a way that it becomes a shield, a barrier for them from the harms of this life and the potential harms of going through life, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will cause them to enter His mercy. Mercy here means paradise. But imagine that. Through Tawheed, we find mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it is mercy that allows us to enter paradise. It is the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He sent the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is the mercy of Allah that He guided us. It is the mercy of Allah that He gives us health. He gives us, financial stability. All of that is His mercy. It is the mercy of Allah that He forgives us. And the list goes on and on and on. Literally every atom, every cell in your brain, every blood cell in your veins is a mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if one of those cells in your brains, right, goes off track, if it dies, if it backfires, something goes wrong, it can create serious harm for the person. And we're not doing anything of that. When we breathe, it's a natural process. We don't have to feel or think about it. When we sleep, it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who's taking care of us in that sleep. قُلْ مَنْ يَكْلَأُكُمْ بِاللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ مِنَ الرَّحْمَنِ. Right? Say who protects you at night and in the day besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in one interpretation of that verse. Excuse me. So it is through Tawheed, which the Prophet ﷺ came and taught us, do we get this benefit of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every dua that is answered is a mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another type of benefit of Tawheed is that it causes us to establish a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As the verse we mentioned before says, وَيَهْدِيهِمْ إِلَيْهِ صِرَاطًا مُسْتَقِيمًا. The Prophet ﷺ came and showed us the path, guided us to the path that leads us to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the King of Kings. Really reflect on this. The most powerful being in existence, the most capable, the most knowledgeable, the wealthiest, and just go through the names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have a path to Him. That is where we're going. What better path is there? What better type of life is there? What more noble goal can there be? Really reflect on this point. If there's something, some goal you can reach in this life, compare that to the goal of being close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and what comes with that. Quite amazing. Next is, it gives us access to the most powerful weapon, and that is the most powerful tool rather, and that is dua. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُلْ أَنَدْعُ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ مَا لَا يَنْفَعُنَا وَلَا يَضُرُّنَا. Say, shall we supplicate, invoke other than Allah who cannot benefit us or harm us in any way? Which shows that the opposite is what we do. We supplicate, invoke someone who's able to help us. Someone who's able to answer our calls, answer our cries, answer our needs. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answers a dua, He doesn't just give us what we ask for. If we ask for a little bit of money, Allah just doesn't give us a little bit of money. He gives us far beyond. He exceeds our expectations. A tool where you have direct access to the King of Kings. And we touched on that earlier. Also, it is the key to forgiveness. Now, forgiveness is something that in order to really appreciate it, we need to contemplate upon it. And I'll give you a very simple analogy. And that is the following. You go to your car and you find a nice parking ticket on your windshield. Right? And you go now to the police department and you want to pay it. How much is a parking ticket these days? What, $50? $30, $50? Around this, right? $30 or $50. Not much. It's not something to be worried about. However, if we were to go to the police department and say, I'm here to pay my ticket, and then the receptionist says, you know what, don't worry about it, we forgive you. Would you feel happy? Of course, even though it's such a small amount. We'd be very happy. Oh, thank you so much, man. It'll make your day. Just because, they forgave us for that. Now imagine returning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When now it's not $30, it's heaven or hell. And you have all these sins in your book. And you see them in front of you. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you know what? I forgive you. Not just I forgive you, I'm going to convert them into good deeds. Now imagine this receptionist doesn't just say, we forgive you, here's $50, go have some dinner. That's even better. Imagine that. In such a dire situation, when it's heaven or hell, you have everything to gain or everything to lose. And now what's between you and paradise is this mountain of sins. But you are a muwahhid, you are someone who embodied tawheed. Look at what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in a hadith Qudsi. He says, يَا ابْنَ آدَمَ إِنَّكَ مَا دَعَوْتَنِي وَرَجَوْتَنِي غَفَرْتُ لَكَ عَلَى مَا كَانَ فِيكَ وَلَا أُبَالِي يَا ابْنَ آدَمَ لَوْ بَلَغَتْ ذُنُوبُكَ عَنَانَ السَّمَاءِ ثُمَّ اسْتَغْفَرْتَنِي غَفَرْتُ لَكَ وَلَا أُبَالِي يَا ابْنَ آدَمَ إِنَّكَ لَوْ أَتَيْتَنِي بِقُرَابِ الْأَرْضِ خَطَايَا ثُمَّ لَقَيْتَنِي لَا تُشْرِكُ بِي شَيْئًا لَأَتَيْتُكَ بِقُرَابِهَا مَغْفِرَةً. This hadith is in At-Tirmidhi. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this hadith Qudsi that, O child of Adam, if you invoke me and have hope in me, I will forgive you for what you have. And I won't even care. I won't think twice about it. O child of Adam, if your sins reach the skies, meaning if you stack your sins and it reaches the skies, how many miles and miles of sins does that person have? And then you ask forgiveness from me, I will forgive you, and I wouldn't even think twice about it. O child of Adam, if you come to me with an earth load of sins, and you come to me as well, not worshiping other than me, I will come to you with an earth load of forgiveness. Imagine, make that analogy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us so many analogies in the Quran so that we can understand certain concepts better. If we are so excited, we would be so excited for being forgiven for a parking ticket. Imagine on that day when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives all of our sins. Imagine the happiness there. Mercy. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have just completely overridden the entire process. But there's a point to be made here. It is an expression from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, an expression of His mercy and His care for us. Right? And finally, on the point of Tawheed, and going back to the previous point, Tawheed is what brings this. It is the foundation of that. Yes, we are responsible of doing good deeds and asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. But the point here is one of the perks, one of the benefits of the theology which the Prophet ﷺ came, the merciful theology, is that it brings us so much happiness. And the next point is the final point in regards to Tawheed, is Tawheed is our freedom. Tawheed, monotheism, is freedom. Now this is a discussion we need to have as a Muslim community here in America. What is freedom? And I believe our youth, especially our youth who grew up in this country, they really need to redefine what this means, this word freedom. Because in the Western liberal paradigm, freedom means your choice to choose whatever you want. So long as you're not harming anyone, right? Do whatever you want. Now, yes, we are concerned as a Sharia, we are concerned of that which is harmful, right? But at the same time, it is not autonomy. It's not independence that brings us freedom. We don't believe in that. And we don't believe that this is the true definition of freedom. Rather, freedom is submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is exactly what one of our predecessors said. When he was giving da'wah to a non-Muslim land, they asked him, what is your message? They asked him, what is your message? What do you come with? He said, we came to free people from being enslaved by the creation and enslaving them to the Creator. That is true freedom. So what is freedom? Right? What is freedom? Let's kind of analyze this for a moment. What is true freedom? And I've given this example before, I'm going to give it again. If you had the choice between $1 million, $10 million, what would you choose? And losing an eye, what would you choose? I want to hear from you. If you had the choice of getting $10 million, but losing your eye, would you take it? No. Right? Does anyone say yes? No. Right? Does anyone say yes? The consistent answer is no. My one eye is worth more to me than a $10 million. Now, what does this have to do with freedom? Well, with that $10 million, there's a lot you can do now. But to us, protecting ourselves is more important than giving us the opportunity to do some things. So, what is freedom? True freedom is making sure we are protecting from that which is harmful to us. Does that make sense? Freedom, true freedom, should be defined as protecting the self from that which harms it. And this is precisely what Islam means. Precisely what Islam means. Because the word Islam comes from the root salima. And the word salima means to be free from harm. That's what it is. So Islam is freeing yourself from harm. And that is true freedom. This is true freedom. So we need to adjust our understanding what freedom is. Having the ability to choose and do whatever you want can actually enslave the person. But when we are enslaved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cares so much about us that He refuses to let us become enslaved by other than Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you find the more sincere a person is to Allah, the more dedicated they are to Allah, the more free that they feel. And they are able to transgress they are able to look beyond all these fads and these trends and these systems which aim at kind of manipulating the individual and keeping them within a system where the monster now is feeding off of those individuals. Islam is freedom, and the foundation of that is Tawheed. If you want true freedom in this life and the next life, then enslave yourself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I hate this word enslave because it doesn't truly depict what that relationship is. So the first type of mercy, theological mercy, which the Prophet ﷺ came with, is Tawheed. The Prophet ﷺ came and taught Tawheed to us, and that is the greatest mercy. And therefore our role, so when we are listening to the series and we are observing and exploring these characteristics, well, the goal is so that we embody it and practice it and spread it. If we want to embody and live the mercy of the Prophet ﷺ, then we must spread Tawheed, beginning with ourselves, by learning it, by implementing it, by deepening our understanding of it, and then starting with our family, making sure that our family respects, appreciates, and applies Tawheed. We want our kids, we want our siblings, we want our parents, we want our spouses to be muwahideen, to be people who worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. The second theological mercy, which the Prophet ﷺ came and represented, is the Day of Judgment. That day that's, very scary when we think about it. However, it is mercy. It is the embodiment. It is an embodiment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy. And the Prophet ﷺ was sent to teach us about the Day of Judgment. So when you look at one of the descriptions, one of the roles of the Prophet ﷺ in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes him as being Bashir wa Nadir, a bearer of glad tidings and a warner. He bears us the glad tidings of what? Forgiveness from Allah, mercy from Allah that will lead us to paradise. Glad tidings. وَبَشِّرِ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ أَنَّ لَهُمْ جَنَّاتٍ تَجْرِي مِنْ تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارُ. Give glad tidings to the believers and those who do good deeds, that for them are paradises which rivers flow under. Give them the glad tidings. And this is something we need to revive as Muslims with one another. The sunnah of giving glad tidings to others. When you come to a prayer in the masjid, when you come to Jum'ah prayer, when you fast Ramadan, when you give your zakah, or you give charity, or you do a good deed, have glad tidings. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying glad tidings to you. What you are doing has purpose, has a vision. There's something that's going to come out of it. And that is that beautiful paycheck on the Day of Judgment, which gets us into paradise. When we think of this, when we do good deeds, it adds a layer of excitement, happiness, joy, motivation, inspiration to what we do. So when we go and do a humanitarian effort and we help some homeless people or some needy people, right? We're not just doing something that, that's cool and that's good, that's part of the culture. Rather, we are doing something that gives us bishara. And this word bashir comes from the root bishara, which means skin, meaning it's a type of good news that has such a profound effect on our hearts that it changes the colors of our face. When someone's really happy, they become glowing. Their face is bright with happiness and joy. This is what bishara should do. But without the Day of Judgment, we won't be able to do that. So when we look at the Day of Judgment and we start evaluating ourselves and our deeds, and we look at what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with in terms of good deeds, well, that should bring a smile to our face. And when we think of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the fact that the mercy that we see in this life is only one out of 100 portions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy. He saves 99% of His mercy for the believers on the Day of Judgment. It brings happiness to us. When we believe in the Day of Judgment, nothing can go void in our lives. Nothing is void of purpose and wisdom and reasoning. And therefore, whatever a situation might be, whatever a person might be going through, there's always a way to look at it with optimism. If someone is going through illness, severe illness, well, we know that the person who's patient, then they don't feel a single ounce of pain, a single ounce of sorrow, a single ounce of grief. They don't shed a single tear. They don't feel an ounce of pain, except that is reward for that individual or expiation from sins. Why? Because there's a day of judgment. If someone is upset with the way things are going, for example, their marriage went sour and now it's divorce, they won't look at the past 10, 20 years as being, gone in the wind. I lost all of this and I lost all of that. What a waste of time, what a waste of my life. That's not the way we look at it. Because every bite you put in your spouse's mouth, meaning every dollar you spent on your family, then that is sadaqah for you. And all the effort the wife put in making sure the house is clean and cooking food for the family or doing whatever she does, that is all sadaqah for her. So those past 10, 20 years aren't waste. Rather, they are saved for the individual on the Day of Judgment. If someone loses a loved one, right, and they're Muslim, if they lose a loved one, they lose a child, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep the test away from us. Say Ameen. If someone goes through the unfortunate test of losing a child, with the Day of Judgment, that child isn't just non-existent anymore. As we know, the Prophet ﷺ tells us that no one loses 3 children except that they will intercede for that person on the Day of Judgment. So he said, Ya Rasulullah, what about 2? Right? He said 2. Ya Rasulullah, what if we only lose 1? Only if you only lose 1. Meaning that child will be there waiting for that person, those parents. And they will be a key to paradise for them, assuming that there aren't any barriers between them and paradise, such as major sins or other problematic things. No matter how you look at it, when you have the Day of Judgment as part of your theology, part of your daily routine, something that you consider in all the actions that you do, you are now successfully capable of ascribing purpose in every single thing you do, or every single thing that happens to you that might be out of your hand. So for example, when someone gets in an accident, what do we say? In the Arabic language, what do we say? We say Alhamdulillah, right? And sometimes we say Qaddar Allah ma sha wa fa'al. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed what He willed and He chose, right? And He did. There's a lot of theology here. There's a lot to gain, but we don't really reflect on it, or we've lost the understanding of it. We're saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has done this. He allowed this to happen. And me being patient is now reward for me on the Day of Judgment. I understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not decree anything except that it is in my best interest. Now sometimes that best interest might not manifest itself in this life, or it might not be visible to us. But we can always appreciate and remember that on the Day of Judgment, if we were patient, then that is a reward for us. وَبَشِّرْ الصَّابِرِينَ الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ قَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. And give glad tidings to the patient person, the one who, if a calamity befalls them, they say, we are for Allah and to Allah is our return. Right? Any hardship that comes to a person with the belief in the Day of Judgment, they are able to overcome it. That is mercy. Now put yourself on the other side. In the Western context that we live in, where the Day of Judgment, where the next life is no longer part of theology, part of belief. YOLO, right? This is the new thing. YOLO. You only live once. Do whatever you want, and who cares? You just become dirt after you die. Now imagine if that person who believes in this loses their loved one, and now they believe they will never see them again. Imagine living life like that. Your dear beloved father or mother or child or spouse, they have passed on, you're never seeing them again. How can you live like that? Look at the stress. I mean, when we look at depression and the rampant spread of depression, we have to ask the question, how much of that is due to poor theology, poor belief, the lack of belief in the next life. So the Prophet ﷺ, one of his roles, which shows his mercy to mankind, is that he taught them and reminded them of the Day of Judgment. And when you look at the Prophet ﷺ's sermons on Friday, what does he talk about? It's always about the fundamentals of faith, the theology, and he reminds people of the Day of Judgment. It is the Day of Judgment that gives us so much energy, so much motivation, keeps us on track. So always teach your kids, always remind yourself of the Day of Judgment. Because if you ever go off the path, that concept will constantly be in your mind. It will constantly push you until you get back on track. That is mercy. And the final point that I want to talk about today, which is also theology, is that one of the mercies which the Prophet ﷺ presented by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to mankind is the Quran itself. Quran is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy on earth. It's consistent mercy throughout time, until the end of time. And in this regard, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا كُنْتَ بِجَانِبِ الْغَرْبِ وَمَا كُنْتَ بِجَانِبِ الطُّورِ إِذْ نَادَيْنَا وَلَكِنْ رَحْمَةً مِّن رَبِّكَ لِتُنذِرَ قَوْمًا مَا أَتَاهُم مِّن نَذِيرٍ مِّن قَبْلِكَ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَذَكَّرُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you are not by the mountain of Tur, where Musa alayhi salam received the Torah, because these verses come after the story of Musa alayhi salatu wassalam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you weren't there. You don't know about these stories. However, out of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gave you this book to serve as a warner, for you to warn them of what's coming, and for them to reflect on it, thus creating an emotional response, an emotional attachment to these concepts. And in another verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا كُنْتَ تَرْجُو أَن يُلْقَى إِلَيْكَ الْكِتَابُ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً مِّن رَبِّكَ. You weren't expecting that the book be revealed to you. The Prophet says, nowhere in his mind did he ever expect that he would become a prophet. However, it is mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Quran is mercy to us. And to put that into perspective, remember that the verses in the Quran, those words that you read, are the literal words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaking to each and every one of us, telling us this is in your best interest. This is what's best for you. Be careful of this, do this, and don't do that. When we engage the Quran, when we read it, we're not reading a regular book. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaking to us. What an honor. What an honor. We would be so honored if a king or a president, except for this guy, right? If a king or a president were to come and speak to us on a one-on-one basis. Yet you have the book of Allah, the King of Kings, that is speaking directly to you, to your heart. No matter how smart or how lame a person might be, no matter how intelligent or unintelligent, no matter how learned or how unlearned a person might be, they can always understand parts of the Quran. The Quran can talk to them. The Quran can heal their hearts. It can soothe the pain of a heart. It can do all of that. This is the embodiment, the epitome of mercy from a God. And the Prophet ﷺ is the one who spoke it, taught us it, and he also lived it. So if something isn't clear in the Quran, we see how the Prophet ﷺ was, and that helps us understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us. As Aisha radiallahu anha tells us, كَانَ قُرْآنًا يَمْشِي. The Prophet ﷺ was a walking Quran, meaning he embodied the concepts, the teachings of the Quran so perfectly that it is as if he is literally the Quran walking amongst us. Imagine that. Elevate, enhance. We need to enhance our engagement with the Quran. It's not just a bunch of words that sound good when you sing it or you recite it. Rather, the Quran is Allah speaking to me and you.
How amazing.
How beautiful. How amazing. Really reflect on that. It also shows us how much Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cares about us. That He put amongst us a book so powerful. As He says, if it were to fall on a mountain, it would cause the mountain to become soft. Representing kind of an analogy for a heart that is as hard as a rock. That if the Quran enters a heart, it softens it. If the person is dead inside spiritually, the Quran revives it. If a person is confused, the Quran comes and clears things up for them. If a person is going through a hardship, the Quran comes and gives us the stories of the prophets to help alleviate that stress, that fear, that anxiety. Saying that look at these examples, these role models which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent for you. In them are examples for us. Don't be afraid. Don't be sad. Read the Quran. Just reading the Quran brings a source of a type of tranquility to our hearts that's unexplainable. It transcends emotion. SubhanAllah, it's so profound and so beautiful. Imagine 1400 years this book has been studied. 1400 years. There are thousands of volumes explaining the Quran, talking about the Quran. Yet we're always learning something new from it. It's always relevant to our times, to our particular situations. This is true mercy. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expressing His mercy, His care to all of mankind. And the Prophet ﷺ is an extension of the Quran. to show us what it means, what it wants for us. So when we look at the Prophet ﷺ, we need to go beyond the social mercies, which we will talk about next week, inshallah. And remember that the main mercy that the Prophet ﷺ came with is theological. And we as Muslims who seek to embody and to emulate the Prophet ﷺ's mercy, we need to remember this point, because it is really sad, the state of Muslims today. The Prophet ﷺ came and his goal was to take us to paradise. Imagine that. What a noble cause. What an honorable thing. What he wants for each and every one of us is to enter paradise. And that is mercy. And when we look at, subhanAllah, in our times today, just to put things into perspective, how far off we are. One of the least paid in professions is what? Being an imam. Right? Giving the Friday khutbah and whatever. It doesn't require much. But these are the people who are calling us to Allah, to paradise, and reminding us of that. Is that not worthy of supporting and elevating? Have mercy on yourselves by teaching yourselves these theologies. Have mercy on your family by also teaching them this, and have mercy on mankind, your co-workers, your neighbors, by telling them about this. People are looking for something like this, something that will bring rest to their hearts, bring peace to their hearts, that will help them explain what's going on in our world today, help them reconcile, process all this information. Only the Quran can do that. You can get into philosophy, you can get into all of these things, it can only go so far. But the Quran is the one that heals and soothes the heart. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us live up to this mercy, and to make us among those who are merciful to all of mankind, of all of creation. Jazakumullah khair wa sallallahu alayhi Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Thank you. All right, any questions?